Welcome back to Tales from the PowerAge. Hope you're all well. Hi guys, how are you doing?
Good.
Cool, good to see you. Tonight we are talking about 1983. Yeah, and what a year that was. That was a year that the Space Shuttle Challenger landed safely. I don't know if you can remember that long ago. David Bowie was singing on stage during his Serious Moonlight tour. Arcade Games launched Mario Brothers. And Margaret Thatcher was voted in again. But we'll leave it there. We're not going to be talking about that tonight. We're going to be talking about heavy metal albums and rock albums from 1983. Now, if you like this and you want to get involved, please share, like, subscribe, get involved. Please get involved in the comments. We love that when you do that. So we're going to talk about some amazing albums from 1983. And for those of you who haven't watched one of these before, the way that it works is these are albums from that year, predominantly heavy metal and rock. We don't have any compilation albums, although that will be coming. There are no live albums in this as well, although that will be coming. These are just straightforward releases from that year. And what a year 1983 was. Now, I'll warn you before we get into the crux of this, the best of the rest is massive. You could almost do a show on its own with the best of the rest. So we'll do our best. These are 12 of the best curated albums by us. And look, we're never wrong, right? So, Gappy, give us your 3 of the best.
Right, here we go then. Peace of Mind by Iron Maiden, coming fresh off the unbelievable Number of the Beast. And this actually came out less than 14 months after the release of Number of the Beast, which is unbelievable. So you do an album, you do a tour, you write a load of songs, and then you bring out this masterpiece. What a fantastic album. There's the introduction of Nico McBrain on drums. Being a 13-year-old, I'd obviously never heard of him at the time. But doesn't he kick off the album well with a fantastic drum intro to Where Eagles Dare? Yeah. And it goes into probably one of the heaviest songs they've ever done, Where Eagles Dare. It's just immense. There's nothing wrong with this album at all. Side 1, in fact, is utterly flawless. The 4 songs on this first side are just great. Bruce has got his first writing credits with Revelations, which of course they still play today, and we were lucky enough to see him not on this tour but the tour after, the Power Save tour, and I was very surprised to see him come on stage and actually play the acoustic intro on the guitar, which was very, very good. Produced of course by the mighty Martin Birch yet again. Probably the best production I think that he did for them, with Nico's drums sounding probably the best they'd ever sound with this album and the one after it. The guitar solos are great in this album. Both Smith and Murray doing fantastic solos. It's also got Murray's first writing credit for 3 years on the mysterious Still Life song, which is really good. Probably their most famous song, The Trooper, starts side 2. It's got over 390 million streams on Spotify. But to put that into context, Back in Black's got 1.3 billion. So, wow, not quite as good as that, but it still comes in the top 10 of streamed metal songs. It's just great. Ends with To Tame a Land, which is a Dune-inspired Steve Harris only penned song. Very Eastern sounding, which would go on into the next album, as we all know. But what a great closer. Fantastic album. What do you guys reckon?
Yeah, one of my favourites. I love that. I love the whole gatefold sleeve and the whole kind of concept.
Yeah, first gatefold I'd ever seen.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Got it with the merch sheet as well. Yeah, it's a fantastic record. Love it.
This record, annoyingly, was the one, as you said, Gaps, the one before we saw them. So I listened to this and read this cover more, and my brother went to the World Peace Tour, which was massive. And I spent the time reading that program, the actual program, and this record more than probably any record I've read in a long, long time. And it's just a cracking record.
Brilliant. Cool. Yeah, excellent record. Revelations, me and Gaps were at Download a couple of years ago, and we were woken up early because we were right in the flight path of the EasyJet planes flying people to Ibiza or wherever. And by the time we got ourselves together and we were just getting ready to think about breakfast, Revelations on the sound check was piling out on the Saturday morning. It sounded amazing and spine tingling when you're so far away, and it made you so excited for the night. I'll never forget that. It's just funny, isn't it? Those little moments. But yeah, super album. So well done, guys. Next one, Gaps.
Yeah, we're going to my next one. Another Perfect Day by Motorhead. Controversial album. It was the introduction of Brian Robertson, who was got into the band by Phil Taylor because he was an absolute massive Thin Lizzy fan. He persuaded Lemmy that he was the man to finish the tour after Eddie Clark got fired in '82. So he did that, and then they went into the studio. And I think everyone knows that Lemmy and Robbo didn't really get on very well, and that he spent 17 years doing all his guitar tracks. But for me, I mean, I didn't care. I didn't know anything about that sort of thing at the time, and I got into this because I bought the single. I got mine in Oxford before I got the album. Musically, it's just so far away from what Motorhead had been doing. The production on this album is fantastic. The start of this album, you can't knock it because Lemmy just says, he says something like, "Our bit, listen," and he goes, "Top notch," and he launches into Back at the Funny Farm on bass, which is best ever bass sound on album, in my opinion. Goes straight into Shine, which is my favourite Motorhead song of all time, with amazing guitar solo by Brian Robertson. There are a few maybe not so good tracks on this album, but it's still, to this day, it is my favourite Motorhead album. A lot of people have probably slated me for that, but I don't care because I absolutely love it.
It's brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely love this record.
I got this the year it came out. I think it's a brilliant album. I'm really underrated, I think.
Very underrated.
Arguably the best album. I mean, look, we're big lovers of Overkill, Bomber, Ace of Spades, but this is a really great album. Quite difficult to get hold of this now. You don't see this around very often.
I haven't got it. I haven't got it.
I have. Funnily
yeah.
enough.
Yeah.
Cheers, Gaps. You got one more, I think.
Yeah, we're going to the last one. Bark at the Moon by Ozzy Osbourne. This album was my introduction to Ozzy. I hadn't heard any of the previous stuff with the masterful Randy Rhoads before I'd heard this. Obviously, I went back to it and listened to it. And in my opinion, this is the first album that Ozzy has got a decent guitar sound, because the first two with Randy, the sound really suffered. His guitars didn't really sound very good at all, in my opinion, where Jake E. Lee's guitar sound on this was immense. All songs written by Ozzy Osbourne. Of course, we know that isn't true. They were all written by Jake E. Lee and Bob Daisley.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, we better put that in there, yeah, just to... Ozzy might have had some input, and obviously he did with the vocal. It starts with my favourite Ozzy song of all time, Bark at the Moon, which is got just a fantastic riff. It's got brilliant middle eight, it's got a brilliant chorus, and his howl at the end of it is to die for. It's fantastic. Side one ends with Rock and Roll Rebel, which is my second favourite of all time Ozzy Osbourne song. But overall, I think this is a great record, and I'm so glad I was introduced to Ozzy on this, to be honest.
Cool. Anything else from anyone else?
Yeah, with this album, this is what Ozzy was touring for. He played special guest on the 1984 Monsters of Rock, which went down in history as the greatest bill ever, and it was very much Ozzy's support slot that actually made it the greatest ever. It was already amazing with AC/DC and Van Halen, but this the tour that he was on. And Jake, I remember Rock and Roll Rebel at Donington was just masterful, just brilliant. The guitars just shine through. It's just so good. And this is a cracking record. It had So Tired on it, and it was a ballad, and I didn't like any ballads until I hit about the age of 40. So to me, that was a wasted number on the song, on the record. But that's a really strong record. Like it.
I like that song. I think it's
I love it now.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Okay.
Cool. Video. Have you ever seen the video to So Tired?
Yeah.
Phantom of the Opera type thing going on.
I was just going to say that, Gav. My mum had got a job working for Robert Maxwell.
Oh dear.
A spy in Oxford. And she used to tell, well, Gav will remember this because he used to come around my house and watch all the heavy metal programs that I can't remember what it was called. This was before Headbangers Ball. But she used to video them all for me and then bring it home and watch all these sort of MTV videos. But Bark at the Moon, I just, it's so exciting putting a video on and Bark at the Moon was on, and Ozzy and stuff.
Bark at the Moon was actually Ozzy's first ever video.
Yeah, it's amazing stuff you wouldn't see. So it was just, it was so exciting.
That's a good point about this generation or this year. Is I think if you're an American rock fan at this time, you were probably watching MTV or about to. We didn't get it for years. We didn't get it till the late 80s, 90s over here. Even though it launched, we didn't get it. So we didn't see videos. We heard everything without seeing it, which I prefer, to be honest.
Yeah. So thanks, Gav. So I think it's me now.
Yep.
This flick of the switch. So for anyone that's watched any of these pods before will know that I absolutely love AC/DC, and this was a really special record for me because this was the first one I bought when it came out.
Me too.
And, I was at Butlins in Bognor Regis, and my beautiful parents walked me down into town to Woolworths, and I purchased it, and I coveted it so much.
Blast from the past.
Yeah, I wanted to, I just wanted to get home and play the album, play the record, and look, it didn't disappoint. So this is the first record in 3 that wasn't produced by John Mutt Lang, but there's some great tunes on this album. Rising Power, This House Is on Fire, Nervous Shakedown, probably my favourite, Bedlam in Belgium, which doesn't get the kudos I think it deserves. It's an absolutely stomping, brilliant track. Deep in the Hole, Badlands. I think this is a brilliant album. Yeah, Angus looks great on there, doesn't he? Looks absolutely awesome. First time he'd appeared back on the cover again since Highway to Hell, which was cool. A couple of other things just to show, and I'm going to give Jam a bit of a big up in a sec. They started the whole picture disc carry on with this album, so any of you that bought any of the picture discs at the time will know that they do go a little bit tea stained after a while. I don't know why, but
my Troopers like that, yeah.
Yeah, so this is Nervous Shakedown, and I've also got the Guns for Hire here as well, which doesn't look as bad because you don't really notice it with the AC/DC. But again, it's just you can barely read anything on the back. So
those are the days, and they mentioned Donington on the back.
Well, yeah, I was just coming to that. That was my big upper Jam because here's the 12-inch, and on the back, live at Donington Park, Saturday the 18th of August, which of course Jam went to, and we will forever be bowing to him on his prowess that he saw AC/DC on the Flick of the Switch tour. The only day they played in the UK on that tour.
And it was a magical day, so...
I knew it would be. For those of you interested, there's a nice little US promo.
Yeah,
just you wanted to see that. But hey, right, anything you guys want to say?
I got this when it came out as well, and it was the first album that I actually took to school. And in those days at school, you didn't put it in a bag; you just carried it around like this, so that everyone could actually see that you just bought the new album by someone. So I remember taking it into history, and Mrs. Gibson, was it Miss Gibson or Mrs. I can't remember. She said, "Oh, an AC/DC album, yeah, very nice." It's also got a raised cover,
embossed.
You can, is it embossed? Is that what you say?
Yeah.
Which I think is, it's just so good. Loved it. Amazing album. And you missed out Guns for Hire. I think Jammo might have a little story on Guns for Hire.
I actually know what I was going to say. Yeah, I just wanted to we need to thank AC/DC because they provided us with our break time entertainment. And as all of these boys on here will recall, we weren't allowed to leave the school premises, and we hardly ever did. And there were some swings in the park that we'd go to, and we were 13, 14-year-olds, and we would go on the swings as high as you could get. And then all the lads, everyone would start singing the beginnings to Guns for Hire, the gang, 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 gang. And as it built up, as you were going to, of course, you had to jump from the highest you could get on the swing. You get really high, and then everyone would be going, glang, 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 a blit, and then you had to jump off your swing and try not to break.
Angus off the amp.
Good.
And then when you got down, you'd land, and then you'd obviously have to run off like Angus Young, banging your head, and then everyone can take turns. So thank you, Guns for Hire. Thank you, AC/DC, for providing that. And it was awesome.
Fantastic times. Yeah, it was amazing. Loved it.
That's what you did before Nintendo.
Yeah, that was on Cold Summer. Which is a bit I love. It's like, what?
Brilliant. Well, that's Flick of the Switch. The next offering is, I'm going to give a little secret here. I didn't buy this when it came out, unlike AC/DC and unlike the next album, which I'm going to show, but we couldn't leave this album out. This was one that I ended up buying a couple of years later. it was all over Krang at the time, and it was, of course, Kill 'Em All on Music for Nations in the UK, which you can see there. I mean, wow, this was a genre in a genre, right? And what some records on here. Hit the Lights, The Four Horsemen, or Mechanics, if you were a Megadeth fan.
Yeah.
Phantom Lord, No Remorse, Seek and Destroy, Metal Militia, and I'm not going to lie, my favourite, Whiplash.
Whiplash, obviously.
Absolutely brilliant. And when you are a teenager, a young teen, Whiplash, heading out or systems go, you've come to see the show. It's absolutely brilliant. Great in a cover with this album as well, with the photos. It's looking a bit old and haggard now, which is to be expected. But this is a super album. And actually, you know, you could argue started a genre. I've got this in the box set as well, which I'm not going to pull up because it's too heavy to carry with all the stuff in it. Like you, Gav, I've also got the Jump in the Fire 12-inch, which is pretty cool. Some great photos on the back as well.
It's weird how the American import version.
What's on the B side of that?
Almost similar, almost the same back.
Yeah, look at that.
I only noticed that today. This is
I got a couple of live tracks on the back.
Whiplash isn't on this one.
No.
This is the UK one, so Whiplash isn't on this.
Yeah, so they just picked the artwork and just changed the main song.
Yeah, look at that. Wow. But yeah, amazing. Absolutely fantastic. So any other comments on Metallica Kill 'Em All? Oh, what a brilliant record that is. When
I first played, talking to the two generation thing, my brother was into metal as well, and I played him Whiplash, and he went, "Oh, this is too noisy. Oh, this is rubbish. just noise." It's like it's such a weird thing that, you know, the guy that was into Iron Maiden and Judas Priest thought that Whiplash was too much. Brilliant.
And he's only, was he 2 years older than us?
Yeah.
3 years?
Yeah.
For me, this is my least. I don't revisit this record. I don't know about you. This is my least. I revisit Ride the Lightning and I revisit Master quite a lot, and Justice as well. This one, it doesn't feature, which is weird, but that's how it is.
Yeah, Seek and Destroy and Whiplash are immense. I'm not really too much into the rest of it.
A couple of years later, probably 4 years later, me and Gav went to see Metallica at Monsters of Rock in Germany, and we'd seen them in Donington the week before. And they played Whiplash in Germany, which they hadn't in Donington. And we were it's like made the weekend complete. Our lives were complete in that.
We had one up on the British fans.
It was brilliant, absolutely fantastic. So this is a real contrast to Metallica Kill 'Em All, which is the next one. And this is ZZ Top Eliminator, and I got this when it came out. What was interesting about this one, for those UK viewers of this, will remember, I think there was a 24-hour whistle test. They changed it. It had gone from the old grey whistle test to the whistle test. And I think at 2 o'clock in the morning or something ridiculous, they promised to play the new videos from ZZ Top, which were Gimme All Your Lovin', Sharp Dressed Man and Legs. And they played them one after another. To which I videoed, and then I started watching constantly. For more than one reason, but it was just, I couldn't believe how, I mean, the videos are amazing. Little stories in the videos, of course. The girls look great. The band look amazing as well. But I'd never really known much about ZZ Top, with the exception of Tush, up until that point. They just blew me away. Went and got the album. It's an absolute killer album. It still sounds brilliant today. If I Can Only Flag Her Down, Sharp Dressed Man, Legs, you know, I mean, Under Pressure, Got Me Under Pressure as well. It's a brilliant song. I love that, which I think they started with the last time I saw them at Rambling Man. And you can't help but tap your foot to it. It's just a great slice of rock and roll, this album, in my opinion. And to your point earlier, Gav, this was the birth of MTV, and my God, did they get it?
Yeah, brilliant timing.
Yeah, so
I think this album's absolutely timeless. You can put it on now, and it doesn't sound like it came out in 1983. It's just fantastic from start to finish. And you've got to say that the guitar playing on this album, Billy Gibbons is such an underrated guitar player. It's so good. I Need You Tonight, which is the sort of slow ballady one on this, is guitar solos in that are just so good. And Sharp Dressed Man's one of my favourite guitar solos of all time.
It's brilliant. And of course, Frank Beard, he was the only one without a beard.
Yeah.
It's bizarre.
But for any for a band to take advantage of that and to go, right, what have we got here? Oh, we've got a boogie rock band. It's 3 old boys playing. Yeah. What should we do?
Yeah.
Oh, I know, put an awesome car. And birds.
And some cracking birds.
Young lady. Let's multiply it by doing a song called Legs. And then let's do some awesome videos and then get them all on MTV and we'll saturate the world. And they did. And they sold.
Great management, isn't it? Great management.
Yeah. And that pushed them stratus. They were massive.
Totally.
They were massive. And headline Donington 2 years after the release of this album. That's how big it went. So they went from really nothing in the UK to massive. Yeah.
Flying the car over the crowd.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, no. Well, that's one we should have gone to. 85. Don't know what happened. Why we didn't go. We should have gone that year for many reasons.
I agree.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So that's my 3. So Jammo, I think it's you.
Here we go, Jammo.
This year, the 12 records we're putting up here. I actually at the time still own, obviously, and at the time own 11 of the 12. Motorhead's the only one I didn't have. This is making this a particularly difficult year. You'll notice for all of us, this is a really tricky one. And it doesn't get any easier in 84. But I'm not able to show any of my records. I'm mid-move at the moment. It's been going on for a while. But yeah, so I can't show any of my records.
I think we got you covered, mate. You're all right.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm okay.
You're okay.
Pyromania. I've waxed lyrical about Pyro. If you look at if you like Deal with DC, you look back on our pods we've covered Def Leppard a couple of times. Pyromania, I can say, was my most listened to record in the 1980s. I know that for a fact because that was the one that I fell asleep to most nights.
I'm not sure we should be saying that.
No,
in a good way.
I put it on. And
in a good way, yeah.
On my headphones. No, every night I would go to sleep with Die Hard would be, it'd literally be on a loop, just playing and playing and playing. And so yeah, it's an amazing record. When everyone was giving grief to Def, when I say everyone, Sounds and Kerrang, Sounds was saying about Def, they've sold out, they've gone to the States. Well, no, they hadn't. They just done an amazing record, and they were building they were setting themselves up to be this massive stadium-filling band. And this record was just brilliant. Sung up. I'm not going to list the tracks. It's daft because everyone is amazing. He says, "Rock of Ages," "Photograph," and "Stage Fright." Die Hard, "The Hunt of Fooling." Everyone's virtually a single, and this is almost. I think they learned from this when they then step up for the next one to Hysteria, when they pretty much made everyone a single on the next record. It was just absolute tunes aplenty, so different to what had come before. High and Dry made it into a previous top 5 of ours, and this trumps that so much, and they've moved on so much after their first 2 records. What are you boys thinking of the Pyromania?
I absolutely love it now. At the time, I think you were about to get me into it because we were going to be in a band, and probably around this time, and we were listening to this sort of stuff, and I just couldn't believe it at the time, just how many melodies were crossing over each other and the backing vocals, and most songs have 3 or 4 good like hooks. These had about 20 in every song, and that's partly their songwriting but partly Mutt as well and his production. I couldn't believe it. I was disappointed that they weren't shoved down everybody's throat, because we should have been proud of them, not slagging them off, and in retrospect this stands up as well. Maybe a little bit dated sounding, but songwriting wise it's fantastic.
This album's is almost flawless in my opinion. There's really that you can listen to every single song on this album, and you just want the next one to start after the last one's finished, because there is not a bad song on this album. Really isn't. It's immense from start to finish.
But even like the ballad, Too Late for Love's brilliant. It's got
that's my favorite. I said to them, we were at Def Leppard in the summer at Wembley, and when this started, I turned to my wife and said, "This is my favorite Def Leppard song. It's tear-jerking. It's such a great tune." Yeah. Also, the video, Photograph. This was one that came back with my mum on the video. and I couldn't believe it. I thought it looked absolutely brilliant. The Union Jacks, the jumping around, the Marilyn Monroe in the background. It was just, oh my God, give me more Def Leppard. What a great album.
Very much so. Which takes me on to look it up. There you go. So Kiss, it's 1983. They were going through a tricky old time, as we all know. The Elder, which is featured in a previous pod, and the rather lackluster reception for Creatures of the Night, even though it was a great rocking album. They had lineup difficulties too, didn't they? Ace was supposed to be on Creatures, but was he? It was Vinny. What was going on? So they did the decent thing. They decided to take the makeup off, which is something that everyone had been banging on about for years. And they took the makeup off and they released this album. And I've told the story before. This was released and I really wanted it. And I was going to go and get the bus to go and get it from our price in our local town. And my mum had said, "Oh, it's your birthday soon. Why don't you wait?" And perhaps I said, "No, I can't wait. It's like the following week." The new Kiss record, and they're going to be on the front cover. There's probably not going to have makeup on. It's going to be amazing. And she said, "Well, why don't you just wait? Perhaps you'll get a record voucher." I said, "No, Mum, I need it. I'm going. I've got to go." So I'm just setting off to go to get the bus. And she walks into my room and she slams, not too hard, luckily, slams this box. It'd been released in the week. Thursday. She'd been and got it, getting it ready for my birthday. And I was like, "Oh," she said, "You've ruined your surprise." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, Mum. I don't care about a fucking surprise. I've got Kiss's latest record and I haven't got to get the bus to Wickham to buy it." And I was so happy. And I slammed it on and it blew me away. It blew me away. For me, they didn't lose any magic. I thought that was superb. It was brilliant to see them. I've been looking at the cover of Kiss Alive 2 for the last bloody 8 years, however long it had been. For me, as the record as a whole is brilliant, but Exciter, Lick It Up, 1,000,000 to 1, I adore. All Hell's Breaking Loose, Catch Me Drunk and start the first line of that, and I'll be singing that with you for the next hour. Give Me More. They're all just cracking rock tunes. And it had a great sound. I thought it was produced really, really well.
I agree.
And the whole actual album has a sound of its own, and the songs really do. It's actually a real record where the songs actually fit in together. But they were back with a bang, in my opinion, and this is really up there for me. What are your thoughts, boys?
Yeah, well, that was the year we saw them live for the first time, and I think it was a shock that all your 5 years before that you'd be wanting to see Kiss in makeup. So there was a degree of disappointment there. But when this album came out and it was all rocking and they played loads of songs off this album, it didn't matter. All of a sudden, it didn't matter. And they still had the tank, as we've mentioned on previous episodes, with Heavy Pettin supporting.
Yes.
It was just, that was all a 13, 14-year-old boy needed to see. And it was fantastic.
I think we've also
I still play this. I still go back and listen to this album.
Yeah, it's a good album. I think we've also mentioned the week before they played the UK, they unmasked the makeup on MTV in the States. It's insane, isn't it? Yeah. And then the week later, they started the UK tour.
That's incredible.
Mental when you think about it.
It's got one of my favourite Kiss songs of all time, which is "Fits Like a Glove," which is so good. Nobody knows what that song's about, do they? But it's typical Gene. It's just so good. It's got a couple of his where he's going up and down the fretboard on his bass.
Oh yeah,
so good, brilliant. And the song, I mean, Lick It Up, the song, it's just such a simple song, and yet it's just so good.
Yeah, I love it. Great song. Okay, next one, Gav.
So this might be seen as a bit left field, bearing in mind some of the massive bands that we've got in here today. But it was November 1983. I'd managed to tag along to see MSG, Hameo and Kiss at Wembley Arena with my brother. Thank you very much, bro. But in my lifetime, I was ready. I wanted to go to the rock show on my own. 14, for God's sake. What else are you supposed to do out in sleepy Oxfordshire? Y&T announced they were playing a gig, and I'd heard of them because they'd supported AC/DC, and they were getting a good vibe. They were playing the most awesome Oxford Apollo New Theatre, whatever you want to call it, as was there.
New Theatre at the time.
Yeah, 3rd of December it was set up, and got me and my mate a couple of tickets. Love it. sorted out a lift from our parents. What's that all about? And they're like, you're what? Oh, we're going to the rock show. Get used to it. This is going to happen for the next 40 years plus. And got the lift 20 miles or so to Oxford. They were ably supported by Rock Goddess. Rock Goddess was a great band. And I'm a 14-year-old lad, and I'm seeing these really hot rocking ladies. Everything about it was immense. Then Y&T came on, and this record, this is why, obviously, for me, it's just, this was the record they were touring. They melted my face, for want of a better phrase. Dave Menike, one of the most underrated guitarists in the world ever. His vocals are flawless, and his guitar playing is just sublime, and the tone that he gets out of his guitar is just unbelievable. This record carries all the tunes that I actually physically, if I listen to it, it takes me back to the 3rd of December 1983. Mean Streak, Midnight in Tokyo, Sentimental Fool, Take You to the Limits. They're all superb. It's on A&M. The production is okay.
I like it.
I love the production on this album.
Yeah. It's as far as the actual, I don't know, would you say it's a little bit dated at all?
Not really.
Well, I listened to it the other night, and I didn't think so. I could listen to this album in 10 minutes' time, and I still think it was brilliant. It is fantastic.
Just to finish off, the cover, the Y&T logo. Again, we talk a lot about bands and how they set themselves out. It's absolutely superb. This was their last. There's a lot of people that say Y&T was their last real proper rocking metal type album. In the future, they're on MTV more. They're doing your Summertime Girls, and they're playing to an audience, and they're basically making a shed load of money, I would imagine. The big bucks are coming in. This record standalone is awesome.
Just mention the drumming before you go, Gaps. Leonard Hayes on the drums, just such a unique style, such a talented guy. And then, at the time I was learning to drum, so I was listening to that going, it's pretty hard. It's pretty good.
He actually stepped out on the night, and he even had he told a couple of stories to the crowd. He engaged massively. And again, this made me a lifelong Y&T fan. Of course, I next see them about 8 months later at Donington because they're awesome. So they played. But anyway, enough of that. That's me then. Cheers, boys.
Good.
Well done, mate.
Gav, over to you.
Okay, over to me. Right, Thin Lizzy. Honoured to have this on my list, and just scraping the last of their career, sadly, with Thunder and Lightning, if anyone's listening. So this was their kind of rock album, 12th studio album, I think. So this is when John Sykes joined the band, and I managed to scoop up the gatefold version with the extra live tracks on the back. Really heavy. Johnny Sykes riffing all the way through it with a really heavy production from same guy who did Y&T, actually. Chris Sangarides did this one. I don't know if it stands the test of time fully. There's some brilliant songs on here. Things like Thunder and Lightning is about as rocky as you're ever going to get, Thin Lizzy. Sun Goes Down, brilliant. Holy War's brilliant. Cold Sweat, the guitar solo in that was incredible at the time, the tapping. And I've always loved Bad Habits. Give me a bit of cowbell anytime. And another weird thing about us guys, we went to see Phil's band after this, about a year or so afterwards, called Grand Slam, and they were selling Thunder and Lightning tour merch at the merch stand. So
we all bought the T-shirt.
These boys had bought a T-shirt and it was super cool for the next 5 years, and I bought a bloody sweatshirt, embroidered blue sweatshirt. I really cocked up there, but what I did manage to get was
there it is. Look at that.
There it is. Still got it. Epic. But yeah, so it was strange going. None of us saw Thin Lizzy. So to go to a merch stand and pick up Thin Lizzy gear when we hadn't seen them was kind of really weird. But
and it was
anyway.
cheap as well. It was literally it's like £3. It was like no pounds.
No, it was no pounds. Should have bought the whole box full of them.
Yeah, I can't believe you didn't get a T-shirt, Gav.
No, wasn't enough.
They did a set on the Tube as well, didn't they, Gav? Because I remember them playing Cold Sweat. My parents were massively into Thin Lizzy, but
they did. Yeah, they did.
Yeah, that was really stood out. I mean, they were very. It was very hard, much harder stuff than they've been doing in the past.
That last, there is a show, a Johnny Sykes show, which was one of the last ones they ever did, and he's just so amazing. You know, he's there in all his black gear and his black Les Paul.
Are you talking about the Sight and Sound? BBC did a Sight and Sound in concert.
That's it. Yeah.
It was Thin Lizzy's. It was Phil Lynot's Thin Lizzy. So the bass was turned up a little bit louder than you normally would have, because they didn't know that that's not what you. But it was still, it's brilliant and it's out there. I had it on DVD. I had it on video. Sight and Sound, really good. And as you said, sorry, Gap, the tracks you just mentioned there, Bad Habits. There's some really good tracks on there. Again, as you said there, if you get the gatefold, you get an extra 12-inch, which is very nice to have.
Okay, my next one. Wow, this is close to my heart. Marillion, Script for a Jester's Tear. So this is their debut album. They'd already preceded it with the mighty Market Square Heroes, and they'd already had a little bit of a dalliance with the chart. Now this one is, if you think about the marketing of a band, they're coming out with a single that's not going to be on the album. The B-side is like a 11-minute song called Grendel. So you're getting half an hour of music that's not on the forthcoming album before they even release the album. You know, that's ballsy. And then the album comes out and you've only got 6 songs on it because they're all so blooming long. And then there's 2 singles off this album as well. There's Garden Party and there's He Knows You Know, both charted. So this band are on fire. They've been gigging up and down the country for years, a couple of years. Really struggled to get a record contract, and then ended up fighting off EMI and Charisma, and in the end went with EMI. And I think this is one of the best debuts that there possibly could be. So this is He Knows You Know, and that's, I've got a fully signed one behind me. And then there was the Garden Party. Like a lot of bands that actually thought about their audience at the time, you got loads of value, you know, so you would buy the singles because the B-sides weren't going to be on the album. And you know, that was fantastic. The last album with the original founding member, who's Mick Pointer on drums, before he got replaced for the next album. But yeah, I absolutely love it. What about you guys?
This is a weird thing, only been 6 songs, but as you say, they're so long. The whole record's got such a great vibe. Annoyingly, I had it back then. I had to buy it a year or so ago because they did a really good remix, didn't they? Remix.
Yeah, I was going to show you that.
Actually does sound really, really good. You know, sometimes you buy these and it's like, but it's a really good version. So yeah, so I've now owned a couple of those. It's great. It does it great justice, the remix.
They're still, you know, they've got a real cult following, Marillion. But I think the one thing you forget is actually how big they were in the 80s. They were really big, actually. And I suppose they got airplay with Kaylee, etc. But they weren't getting a whole pile of airplay at the time.
Not of this era or the next era. No, very kind of student-y, niche following, you know. But that was enough. You know, if you've got a loyal following, you can get in the chart. And the other thing is they had the iconic. The equivalent of Eddie, you know, with the Jester. So the artwork back in the day, you know, you'd buy them just for the artwork as well. And every single had a different concept behind it, you know, all the way through to the end of the Fish era.
Okay, cool.
And then my final, and the final 12 of the created classics, is Dio, Holy Diver. Now, what can you say about this album? You know, as debut albums go, this is about as good as it gets. I pretty much love everything about it. If you think of the talent that was pulled together to form this band, obviously Ronnie Dio got a pedigree of Rainbow and Black Sabbath. You've got Jimmy Bain from Rainbow. You've got Vinny Appice from Black Sabbath. And the new guy coming over to LA to record it in Vivian Campbell. Used to be in Sweet Savage, who were a new wave of British heavy metal band. There we are. So Dio wanted a European or an English. I think he actually said he wanted an English guitarist because they weren't, you know, whittlers like a lot of the Americans were at the time. And they got Vivian. He was absolutely fantastic. At least for two and a half albums, they were blinding. But yeah, I think this is by far my favorite Dio album. I loved everything about it. I love the production. I love the songs. You know, and we went to the next tour, I think, after this one, didn't we?
We did, yeah.
But the merch was Holy Diver merch. So the program
It
was
was
a Holy Diver program,
Yeah,
which was
that's why I've got the Holy Diver program. Yeah,
yeah, the same here as well. So
and then they've recently revamped it with a slightly different cover, and a kind of a more modern production, and that's brilliant as well. Yeah, there's nothing I can criticize about it. Absolutely love it. It's 5 out of 5 for me. This one.
cool. I've just got a couple of things. We were lucky enough to go and see them not long after this. On the Last in Line tour, but yeah, a couple of Stand Up and Shout, Holy Diver, and Straight Through the Heart. I think that's my favourite Dio song. I think it's absolutely superb song. For me, this is for me, and I'm sure lots of people will disagree. This is Dio's high point. This album's great.
I'm looking forward to our debut album special that we're going to do at some point in the future, because I'd like to see a better debut album of this than this, and the better first song on a debut album than Stand Up and Shout. So awesome. But Don't Talk to Strangers, I don't know if you just mentioned that, but that was an in, Don't Talk to Strangers, an in onto any mixtape that you did in it. It had to have that because it was almost like a ballad, but not. And the hit single, Rainbow in the Dark, it had everything. For me, I thought it's an absolutely banging record.
And the guitar solo on Invisible is one of my favourite guitar solos ever.
Yeah, good stuff.
Brilliant.
Most of it I like. There's 4 or 5 really, really good songs on this album, but for me, there's just 3 which don't really stand the test of time. I'm not going to mention which ones they are, but it's it's a brilliant debut album, but just let down by a couple of tracks, unfortunately.
It is.
Okay, cool. Well, that's our 12. Right?
You can't mention
that's our 12. And I'm sure when we come, listen, we're going to have to skip over the best of the rest because there are so many best of the rest. So, oh my gosh. Gav, do you want to pick up? I've got one.
Yeah, gonna whiz through them because people can see what we've got here, and we're running along. Yeah, Magnum breaks my heart being in the best of the rest, but given the competition, it was self-produced and didn't sound quite as good as the album before. Artwork amazing from Rodney Matthews, and the songs are amazing too, and still a great today. And Saxon for me as well. I love that album. It's one of my favourite Saxon albums. Yeah. But didn't make the grade this time. Anything from you guys?
The thing is, I think what everyone will realise, we've picked the best 12. These are the best of the rest. If you disagree, put a message below. But I think you'll agree we've got the right 12. But then fight amongst yourselves for the crumbs. These are the crumbs. I love that MSG record. The Prize is my favourite Magnum song. That's annoying. It's not in there. But we definitely picked the best 12. But there's a lot of also rans. I think you'd agree.
Yeah. So
just mention Motley Crue, Shout at the Devil, brilliant. It's arguably their best album and didn't make the 12, which is a shame on that one. And the MSG, second best cover of all time.
Yeah, so we're going to just have to flick through these. Heavy Petton's debut album, produced by Brian May, classic. Any other
Grand Prix album? Robbie McCauley on that, fantastic album. That Samurai, brilliant. It's true. The Survivor album's brilliant.
And then Black Sabbath with Gillan was very controversial at the time, and whether people like it or not is, let us know. Quite right.
I got massively into suicidal tendencies, and I went back to this album after I'd bought a few later ones. Yes, it's really good, and it's very, very different if you like crossover thrash metal.
Quite right. Went to #1 in America, so we thought we'd better put it in.
Yeah, balls to the wall is very, very DC priesty.
Yeah. So I think that's it, guys. We'll.
Okay, cool. Well, that's the best of the rest, and that's almost a show in itself. That best of the rest. So, Gaps, you want to just give us a summary of the top 12?
Yeah, I mean, just look at that top 12. I mean, there's everything you'd want in there for a heavy metal / rock / boogie rock / prog rock / anything rock. I mean, there's so much different stuff in there, from ZZ Top, Marillion, all the way through to Motorhead and Iron Maiden. It's absolutely immense. I mean, you can't fault a single album on this list, and it's going to be well, for me, it was very, very difficult to pick a top 5. I mean, I wanted to give the bottom 7 all 8 out of 10, but unfortunately we couldn't do that. So let's see what happens.
Okay, great. So let's look at the top 5. We've got our resident Tony Blackburn tonight. Don't worry, you'll be Tommy Vance next time, Jammo. Our resident Tony Blackburn.
You have to have some black
He's going to
shades
give us the top 5. Over to you, Jam.
Cheers, Dill. As I say, this has been hard work. But so here we go. The official top 5 killer albums from 1983 from Tales from the PowerAge. Don't Want to Wait Till You Know Me Better. Kiss removed their makeup and smashed their way into the top 5 with Lick It Up in at number 5. There Could Be Bedlam in Belgium celebrating tonight as AC/DC make it to number 4 with Flip of the Switch. Caught in the middle, it's Dio with Holy Diver at number 3 in the official top 5 albums of 1983 from Tales from the PowerAge. Flying on Their Way, Where Eagles Dare to number 2 for Iron Maiden with Peace of Mind. Well, listen, welcome to my show. Fooling? No, I'm so serious. It's those Sheffield boys, Def Leppard, at number 1 with Pyromania. Over to you, Dill.
Brilliant.
Good one,
So
Jam.
there's a top 5. Well done, Jam.
Well done,
Really
mate.
good rundown. 5 stonking albums. Amazing. And I think I'd forgotten quite how good 1983 was. And I'm so I feel so privileged to be around buying records at that time. Oh my God, going to the record shop and having that choice, especially when you only had a fiver to buy one. You know, what do you choose first? So brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. So there's our top 5. Well done, Def Leppard. Well deserved.
Yeah,
Fantastic
well-deserved.
album.
Well done, Joey.
And
on
if
the
you
board.
haven't heard it, go and get it because it's bloody brilliant. Okay, good. So I hope you enjoyed that. As always, ring the bell, ring the house bell. Please give us a sub, give us some comments, let us know what you thought. Maybe a little bit controversial in parts because there are so many records that didn't even make the top 12, and I'm sure you've all got your favourites for whatever reason. I hope you've been able to understand why we shared these top 12 because they've meant a lot to us in different ways. You can connect with us on Facebook on Tales from the PowerAge, on Twitter on Tales from the PowerAge, at TFTPA, online at www.talesfromthepowerage.com, and if you wanted some merch, you can get it from redbubble.com. Hope you enjoyed it. Speak to you soon, guys. Thanks. Cheers.
Take care, everyone. Happy to see you.